Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 1045 session at the Governor's Conference. My name is Carey Johnson. I'm the director of the Kentucky Division of Water, part of the Energy and Environment Cabinet, and I am honored to be moderating today's session on technology and tools. So the session will actually feature 4 different presentations, and we'll go through each one individually momentarily. But the presenters are from Division of Water folks, but also a couple partners of the Kentucky Division of Water as well, including Kentucky Rural Water Association and Lebanon Water Works. So I'm very honored and pleased again to be moderating the session on technology and tools. I think everyone will be wowed by some of the innovative things that not only the Division of Water but our partners are working with each and every day to help not only manage but communicate water-related data. So without any further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Wes Turner, who is an environmental scientist in the Division of Water. Wes is a GIS specialist. There's Wes. And he actually is the curator of the division's drone program. So Wes, sir, I turn it over to you. And without any further ado, go ahead, sir.
All right, thank you very much. I'd like to go ahead and share my screen here. This is since this is a technology session, it would be better. Let's see, I'm trying to share
Wes, you should be able to share your screen. If you go to the GoToWebinars toolbar, the top option says sharing. Click the triangle next to that. It's a drop-down menu. You should just be able to click show screen. Wonderful. We can see it now.
Okay.
Yes, coming through.
You can see the drone technology and PowerPoint there?
So if you do me a favor and you click, go to that same drop-down menu where you were at, underneath the play button, you'll see another drop-down menu that says screen. You'll be able to select the screen that we see that way.
Gotcha. Let's see, it should be screen monitor number 2. Can you see that one now?
Just fine. Thank you so much.
Okay, cool. Thank you for your help. Luckily, I know more about flying drones than I do about using some of this technology. It kind of piggybacks off of what the group was talking about a little earlier about some of the innovative technologies that we're picking up and how we're doing it with the newest and latest technologies and how it's helping us in our jobs. One of the things that really helps me is being able to work with so many different agencies across the board. We get to share all of our expertise with the Division of Water, with the Division of Waste Management. We also share with the folks over in DNR, especially with the AML program. They've been more than generous in helping train me and other pilots on how to fly drones and how to collect the data and process the data. We have a work group that works across the state with other agencies like Kentucky State Police. We work with some folks from PSC. We work with the Transportation Cabinet. So we've kind of taken this as a team approach, and all of the drone pilots that want to participate across the state are a part of that team. So we've kind of, it's really helped us develop new programs and new technology, learning about how to use the different drones, and so that a program that's coming on board doesn't have to start from zero. We've got folks that have been flying, in the case of some of the folks at AML that have been flying for 8 or 9 years. Then we've got folks that just started last week. So we've been trying to get those folks in early and across multiple programs so we can help them get their program started with SOPs and best practices and that type of thing. I'm just going to really quickly go over all of some of the equipment that we use at the Division of Water. Different agencies will use different drones. Drones are technically unmanned aerial systems. Our biggest workhorse is this little Mavic Pro 2. Right now we do the majority of our mapping with the Mavic Pro 2. It gives us great resolution. It's got a 20 megapixel camera mounted on it, and gives us just phenomenal photographs so that we can stitch those together and collect various orthomosaics and digital terrain models and that type of thing, which I'll talk about a little later on. A new one we've started using is the little Mavic Mini. They're using that in some of the field offices because it's so much smaller than any of the other drones. The inspectors can basically keep it in their shirt pocket. It allows them to get into places that really they don't necessarily have to be in, like steep slopes or in some cases where there may be threats from animal bites or that type of thing, slip, trip, and fall hazards, that type of thing. So it's really been helping keep our inspectors safer, as well as being able to get a viewpoint that you just can't get any other way except from in the air. One of our newest drones is the Matrice 300. That's through the Division of Waste Management. They've been kind enough to train me on how to use the 300, to use their drones, and we work together quite a bit. It's used we can use it in photogrammetry, but its primary function is for thermal imagery. It takes amazing thermal photography where we can look at different things. For instance, we're using it in our dam safety program to try to determine if there's leaks in some of the dams that we're surveying with these with this photogrammetry, because we can tell the difference between the soil temperatures and the water temperatures, for instance, and so we might be able to see where there's a leak coming in and at least let us get there without having to walk the whole dam or spend hours trying to find a small spot. We can do it in just a matter of time, a few minutes with some of this information. It's also used in I know Waste Management uses it to look at some landfill fires and some other fires and that type of thing that are going on. And we're always expanding, trying to figure out new ways that we can use some of the thermal imagery to look at soil moisture content and different environmental situations that are out there. So we're always evolving our program. The newest drone that I fly is the Phantom 4RTK multispectral. It uses multispectral imagery. So it takes a normal RGB photograph, just like you would with any other camera, but it also concentrates, it breaks out the individual red, green, and blue bands, which are used in different types of analysis where we can look at vegetative health and how well plants are photosynthesizing. It allows us to identify invasive species and other conditions that are out there. It also takes near infrared and red edge band. So with red edge, one of the things we're looking at is looking at soil moisture content that we can use for drought monitoring for some of our agri-farm programs that especially Bill Caldwell is working with and some other folks, and being able to tell when we're entering into drought conditions, or if we can let folks, give them a heads up a little earlier than having to wait for their crops to start dying. So that's a new system we started using, and so far it's proving to be pretty beneficial as well. So there's a couple of different ways. I decided to concentrate on this presentation, not so much on the equipment that we use, but when we get the data from these different flight platforms, what can we do with it? Sure, they make really nice maps and make really nice pictures and that type of thing, but they can do so much more, especially if we're looking at some of the different bands of data, such as the near infrared and the red edge bands. There's a number of programs we can use to process that imagery and get a different view of things. Some folks use Pix4D. We used to use Pix4D. It's a very robust program. I know I think AML still uses Pix4D to a large extent, and it's very good at processing photogrammetry. And then you can export anything that you create inside of there out into an ArcGIS or some other data processing platform, such as Global Mapper or CAD. We use the Esri ArcGIS platform primarily. It's a very robust series of softwares that lets us really take the data and analyze it in multiple viewpoints, even with the same data. And so from Esri, we have a program called SiteScan that we just recently started using earlier this year, which I'm going to demonstrate here in just a few minutes, to show some of the data that you can tease out of just a simple geo-referenced aerial photograph or from some of the other data sets that we collect, like the thermal and or the multispectral data. What's really nice is it allows most of the analysis inside the application, so you don't have to export it to another system to use. But it is very easy to import it into ArcGIS applications like ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Pro, which have a wide variety of very robust data processing components. So with that being said, I will go ahead and demonstrate our SiteScan. Let me bring it up here. Let's see. Share my screen again.
And we can see that A-OK, Wes.
You can see it fine? Okay,
yes,
great.
We can see the internet browser is open.
Okay, cool. So SiteScan is cloud-based. All of our data is stored in the cloud, which really helps us from a financial standpoint. We don't have to pay for a lot of extra storage on other servers that can be quite expensive as you're collecting large amounts of data, which all of these systems tend to do. It also replaces a number of other softwares that we were looking at to do things like manage how many pilots that you have, what kind of equipment that you have, what's the battery, what battery health of your different drones and that type of thing. And it allows you to monitor the conditions of your drone so you can make sure you keep up with your maintenance and during your operations and everything. It also gives upper management a chance to see where their flyers are flying, what kind of sites they're doing, and be able to see some of the data that we process. So what you're seeing now is a heads-up display that it gives us when you first open, and these are the flights that I fly. That I have flown since I've started using SiteScan. And then once you click on the area, it'll actually show you what site that happens to be. In this case, this happens to be Bullet Pin. So I'm going to go a little more in depth into Bullet Pin here in a few minutes, but I wanted to go back to the main screen and show you some of the other features that it has. So what it can do is it can show you all the projects that are in the entire cabinet if we're all linked together. So in this case, DNR and DEP are linked together in this SiteScan interface. So we can see if it's processed inside of SiteScan, we can actually see any of the projects that anybody in the cabinet's find as long as they're processing it with SiteScan. So what we can do is we can invite each other to be team members. We can do cross collaboration. So if AML needed our assistance to fly some multispectral imagery, we can go out and fly the multispectral imagery, upload it into the project, and AML has access to all of the imagery that we collect. So we don't have to try to find some third-party SharePoint site where we can actually, have to send data out and then bring it down. It's all housed inside the program itself, so it makes it very easy to share all of our data. And so we do that with DWM, Division of Voice Management. We do it with AML, and as you can see, there's a number of projects that are already on here that have already been placed on there, have been processed in SiteScan, and any number of analyses run on that. As a part of that, also you can manage all of your licenses within SiteScan. There are multiple layers of permissions that are granted inside of SiteScan. There's administrator, which allows giving folks to to be able to go in and manage who has what license and has had what permissions. You have some cases where they're read-only, where they can just see the project. They can't really do any measurements or manipulation, but if you just wanted to share it with someone, you could share that information with them with relative ease. There's also full access, which a lot of our pilots have to have full access. That allows them to upload imagery and process the data, and then they can share it with other folks within their program. Also, it allows us to take a look at all of our drones, which ones, which aircraft we're flying, at which time, battery life, that type of thing, which is very important in some of these, especially these higher end machines, is making sure that your batteries are up to their full potential, so that you know when to replace them. So especially with budgets constraints like they are right now, being able to get ahead of that game as early as you can really helps out. And then there's a number of just organizational settings that show just some of the general information of how many pixels have been processed by a given pilot, that type of thing. So now I think I'm going to go into some of the projects that we've done. One of the ones that I have had the most work on is Bullock Pen, and it should be up here at the top. Bullock Pen construction progress. And one of the big advantages, of course, with any type of drone imagery is it's saved, and it gives you the capability of sharing or storing that data, and then going back, at any given time in the future, a couple of months, as long as 5-10 years down the road. We've been going out and flying some of our high hazard dams, and we've actually been cataloging those flights so that we can go back over time and compare them to make sure that the conditions are where they need to be. So one of the things, as you can see here, I've flown it multiple times. I'll go ahead and open up the April 4th flight because I've done some measurements and calculations on that one. So this is what it looks like. The elevation on this is around 230 feet. That's typically how high I fly at most of my sites. So at 230 feet elevation, for each pixel on this orthomosaic, it represents 0.6 of an inch ground sampling distance. So that means that if I wanted to, in some of the cases, you can actually tell what kind of leaves these are, and we're actually using some of that data to do some species identification with different trees so that we can tell what's in a given area for some sites. So with that, we as you can tell, we've got a nice high definition, high resolution photograph. You can see some of the work that's being done. Right now you're at 3-meter resolution, which is just phenomenal. To try to capture that data from satellite data right now is very expensive and very limited due to atmospheric conditions. So what we're able to fly on days that necessarily maybe a satellite flying over the same area, there may be high level clouds that would block this site, whereas we can fly under that cloud and actually be able to see the site just about any time except for during rainy conditions and that type of thing. So you can see the
and Wes, I'm just going to jump in real quick. We actually have to transition to the next speaker. So, I'd love for folks to, follow up with you so that we can show some of the tools. And I can honestly say that the Bullock Pen Lake Dam doesn't look like that anymore. There's been a lot more work done on it and a lot more concrete placed. But certainly wanted to, and you can show the slider there from where we started to the labyrinth spillway that we have constructed through the state-owned dam repair program. So Wes, I wanted to thank you much, sir. Appreciate it, and really want to open it up for folks to follow up with you. And there may be some time at the end for some questions, but appreciate it, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Wes. So next we're going to move on to Katie McKone, and Katie is going to give us a presentation on how the division is using a hub site to basically increase public engagement through our 303D and 305B lists. So Katie, from here I turn it over to you. And we can see your screen, Katie, but we don't have audio yet.
Katie, oh, there you go. Your microphone is on now.
Perfect. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Can you see the first page of my intro?
We can,
yes.
and it looks like you are just about to click the presenter mode because we can still see it in editing mode right now.
Thank you very much. How are we now?
Perfect. It looks wonderful. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. So yes, thank you. My name is Katie McKone, and I am an environmental scientist in the water quality branch of the Kentucky Division of Water. Today I will be demonstrating, hopefully through a live demo, a hub site we created to share water quality assessment results with the goal of increasing public engagement. But first, I just want to zoom out a scooch to understand why we do the work we do. There we go. So the short answer is the Clean Water Act. Sections 305B of the Clean Water Act requires states to assess and report water quality conditions to EPA every 2 years. Section 303D of the Act requires states to develop lists of impaired waters every 2 years. The states are required to submit a list of these impaired waters to EPA, and EPA approves our 303D list. We must establish a total maximum daily load for the pollutants impairing waters on their 303D list. And the impaired waters are prioritized for TMDL development with a rank, which the rank is either high, medium, or low. An integrated report is prepared and submitted to EPA to fulfill requirements of sections 303D, 305B, and 314 of the Clean Water Act. This results in a most often 100 to 200 page report and a spreadsheet with many tabs and thousands of rows. So these documents and spreadsheets meet our Clean Water Act requirements, but I often think about the public and the stakeholders and think about what would be more helpful for them to understand these results. So for this IR cycle, we developed an IR hub site to promote engagement and increase awareness about assessed waters and impaired waters in Kentucky. And this is my little moment to say this data is not final, so please do not use this presentation as a source of final information. Once we've submitted to and EPA has approved our 303D list, this IR site will be available on our DOW IR webpage. We used an Esri ArcGIS hub, and I took this directly from Esri's webpage because they can define it better than I can. So they define it as an easy to configure cloud platform that organizes people, data, and tools through information-driven initiatives. Using initiatives, you can create hub sites to aggregate resources and start conversations with internal and public audiences around a specific project topic or goal. And it enables an organizations to communicate more effectively with their communities. So I thought that sounded great. So for the 2018-2020 IR hub site, it incorporates ArcGIS REST services, online maps, ArcGIS dashboards, and story maps. These services are published from the Division of Water's Oracle databases, and therefore, since it's published from a service, the information is alive. The main objective is to share assessment results in a more easily understood and interactive platform. The site also includes information on topics ranging from designated uses, assessment categories, monitoring programs, and assessment methodology, with the overarching goal to be to increase transparency, accessibility, and to promote engagement. So hopefully we can just dive right in here. Unless I hear anyone say they can't see the hub site, I'm gonna keep moving forward. So there's just a quick landing page here as an intro, which gives some background on the IR process and the Clean Water Act. Next, you can go to this designated use tab. And designated uses are part of water quality standards, and it's the foundation of our assessment work. And so we have the, from regulation definitions here, but also if you scroll through, we've utilized a story map to incorporate plain language and also visuals. So you don't even really need to read what PCR is or primary contact recreation is. You see a little girl going off a water slide and you're like, yep, I got it. PCR, you go underwater, you go swimming, it's great. That's my daughter at Lake Barkley, by the way. And then you can just scroll through, and so secondary contact recreation, there's the aquatic life designated use, and you can scroll through and understand these designated uses and even interact with maps to learn as little or as much as you'd like to know. Then moving on to the next tab, There's another story map that describes assessment categories. So when we do assessments, we put waters, assessment units, designated uses, and parameters in a category. And I fully admit that categories are confusing, but what's the most important part is how the categories relate to meeting water quality standards, which we often say will be fully supporting waters, or if they are not meeting water quality standards, which we call impaired waters. So you can interact with this infographic, and then you can scroll through the story map, and you can find waters that are in different categories. So some categories have very few waters, and then if we scroll through here, you can see other categories are pretty prevalent throughout the state. So again, scroll through the story map and you can learn as much or as little as you wish, but the visuals help you get a general sense of what these categories are and where they are throughout the state. Next, we have our monitoring and an assessment tab. And this is an attempt to just, if you can understand our monitoring programs at the Division of Water and how we assess with the types of data collect, I think it can really help someone who's looking at an integrated report or a 303D list understand the results of our assessment. So we, in this case, we've created a dashboard that talks about our monitoring programs at the Division of Water. And that would be our ambient rivers program, our lakes, our probabilistic program, reference reach, intensive surveys, fish tissue, and then we also consider data from outside agencies. So I want to point out in this dashboard is that these are the stations that had data that were used for this reporting cycle, not that have been used always, but just this cycle. So already you can see how much data we collect from our various programs and the type of data. So lakes collects chlorophyll A, ambient rivers collects a whole lot of water chemistry along with some bacteria data. Our prob focuses more on our biological communities along with our reference program. Intensive surveys sort of does it all. Fish tissue collects mostly tissue analysis, and then outside agencies contributes various types of data. Then you can sort of flip the XY axis of this and think about these stations from the perspective of what data was collected. So there's a dashboard that talks about bacteria, the fish communities were collected, the macroinvertebrates, chlorophyll A samples, tissue samples that were analyzed. And if you look at this screen, we collect a whole lot of water chemistry here at the Division of Water. And it's we also have links to all of our SOPs and our surface water standards and our assessment listing methodology to help anyone who's interested in learning more. So next, my favorite part is you get to dive into the data and explore assessment results. And we have 5 dashboards to do that in the assessment results tab and then in the impaired waters tab. So on this assessment results tab, we have a 305B dashboard, a dashboard that talks about aquatic life, and then a dashboard that talks about fishing and recreating. So I want to quickly show you in this 305B dashboard is that these maps are interactive. You can zoom in and you can zoom out. So maybe you're curious about Stamping Ground, Kentucky, which is a cute little town in Scott County, close to Franklin County. And you can then interact with an area that you're familiar with. And when you click on these assessment units, this assessment unit is red because there is a designated use that is impaired, but you can see that other designated uses are meeting water quality standards. Red denotes non-support and yellow denotes partial support. If there's a TMDL for this water, the TMDL report link is available. And also the assessment summary is available through all of these pop-ups, through all these dashboards and maps. And this is really where you can get so much information about that particular assessment unit. What type of data was used? When was the data collected? Who collected the data? If it's impaired, what the cause of impairment is, what category it's in. And every assessment unit on our 305B has one of these. We also have graphics that show you which assessment units have been assessed for those uses and the proportion meeting partial support and non-support. And then you can interact with the other tabs by looking at just the 303D list, just the new listings to this cycle, the delistings for this cycle, and the waters with TMDLs, where the waters with blue halos show you where TMDLs have been written and approved by EPA since our 2016 integrated reporting cycle. Next, we have an aquatic life dashboard. And again, we're looking at assessment results and seeing the proportion of meeting versus impaired, but we're going to do it by use. So we can click through warm water, which is assessed very often throughout the state. It's our most commonly assessed designated use. Cold water, which we don't have very many of them, and you can see a lot of them are meeting water quality standards. And then OSRWs, we have not as many waters designated with this use. And then those that have been assessed for this use, 81% are meeting, and you can see where they are throughout the state. And again, if you were curious about an area, you could zoom in and interact with the assessment units. Similarly, we do a map where we look at PCR, SCR, and fish consumption, which we call our fishing and recreating dashboard. And you could learn more about these uses and their attainment for various water body types throughout the state. Next up is the tab of the site that talks about our impaired waters. And we explore our impaired waters with two dashboards, one that looks at it from the angle of designated uses, and a second dashboard that looks at it from the angle of type of impairment. So if we look at the impaired waters, we can click again through the tabs to understand which waters are assessed for these designated uses. And there's also graphics to show you which causes of impairment are the most common for those uses. So warm water, again, it's the most assessed designated use, so it's not surprising that we have the most impaired waters for that use, just simply because we assess it so often. And then also the most common causes of impairment. And then you can go through cold water, and there's not very many of those. And you can see the causes impairing them, OSRW, PCR, SCR, and last but not least, fish consumption. I really love exploring this data, not so much through the designated use lens, but through the cause of impairment lens. So we've put our causes of impairments into groups such as biological integrity, habitat, and flow. So you can see where those impairments exist throughout the state. Dioxins and PCBs, which is a cause of impairment most frequently along the Ohio River. We have metals and mercury's impairments, which are scattered here and there throughout the state. We have waters impaired by nutrients, organic enrichment, and dissolved oxygen, pathogen impairments, pH and acidity impairments, salinity, TDS, chloride, sulfate, specific conductivity impairments, and then sediment, which is actually our #1 cause of impairment on our 303D list. I could spend so much time just clicking through all these dashboards, and I learn something new every time I explore them. So when these are live, I hope that people enjoy exploring them as well. Last but not least, there are two last tabs here, one about water quality management, which highlights other programs throughout the division who are doing great work, who've also developed story maps, understanding the TMDL program, nutrient reduction in Kentucky, and source water protection. And also, if there's anyone out there who is curious about getting more involved or staying informed, we have a tab that gives those people resources. And you can always email this tmdl@ky.gov to be added to our email distribution list, and then you will never miss a public notice about a 303D list or a TMDL action. So with that, I think I will just thank everyone so much for their time this morning. It's an honor to be here, and I think we'll leave questions till the end.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Katie. This hub site is one of the things that gives me chills every time I go on and look at it. Just with the amount of information that's available, how interactive it is, and how easy it is to interact with the division. So I really invite folks to interact with us, not only if there's feedback, good, bad, negative, indifferent on the site, please feel free to reach out to us. We think this is a great tool in embracing the future, but we can only make it better if we get feedback. So, but thank you again, really appreciate it. So. All right, so we're going to transition to Divisional Water Partners right now. So I'd love to welcome Mr. Daren Thompson, who's the Operations and Management Superintendent with Lebanon Waterworks, and Dustin Horn, who's the GIS Manager with Kentucky Rural Water Association. And they are going to give us a quick overview of a water system operational dashboard using ArcGIS Online. Another one of those whiz-bang things that is just an absolute wonderful tool, not only for systems, but government partners and the like to be using. So, gentlemen, can't thank you guys enough for joining us this morning, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Carey. We're glad to be here. Can you guys hear me okay?
You are coming through loud and clear, sir, and we can also see the dashboards.
Perfect.
And Dustin.
Dustin, we can't hear you. Can you turn your mic on?
Dustin, if you're having trouble turning your microphone on, there should be a dark gray rectangle next to your tools bar. It has a microphone symbol. If you click that, it should turn it on. Looks like you're good to go. Oh. We can see that you're talking, but we're not picking up any audio. If you go up in the toolbar that GoTo shows you to the audio panel and you click the drop-down tab, you may have the incorrect microphone selected.
Hello? Hello?
There we go. Now we can hear you. Wonderful.
Okay, good deal.
All right. Well, thank you guys for allowing us to speak today. We're going to talk about the water system operational dashboards using GIS Online that Lebanon has created, and that we've shared with other utilities and other partners, including the Kentucky Rural Association. So I'm going to give you a brief background of how Lebanon has migrated to operational dashboards. Don't very thankful in the background. We don't have to show you, all of our different dashboards. Then I'm going to turn to Dustin and go into depth on a couple of dashboards, all of that, small utilities. A little background on Lebanon. We're a small water system, plant and a distribution system. About 2,800 customers. Water to a water district, County Water District. I've been the manager for about 5 years. When I was in Lebanon, we were utilizing state forms and Excel files. The field guys, they wrote down their data they were collecting, and they were coming into the office and somebody into a spreadsheet. So tracking data was a manual process.
Daren, I'm terribly sorry to interrupt. Dustin, would you try and mute your microphone? Daren, we're having issues hearing you. Your audio is cutting in and out.
Okay, is that any better?
That's much better. Wonderful.
Okay, perfect. Do you want me to start all over, or did you hear enough for me to just keep going?
I wish I could take an audience poll at this time. I'm going to say go on ahead and keep going for the sake of time.
I think you can keep on going. Yeah, thanks, Daren.
Great, perfect, guys. So tracking data for us was a manual process, and the process that we were using was a top-down approach. We were getting data from the ad districts, the GIS data from the ad districts and KIA, and it really wasn't producing the information that we needed on a day-to-day basis, to maintain our databases. It was great information for financial purposes in submitting projects to KIA and getting funding, but the data wasn't really good as it related to maintaining our assets. It was a really sluggish manual process. So for us, the introduction of ArcGIS Online was a game changer, and it gave us powerful tools, easy to use. I told the guys, if you can use an iPhone, you can utilize these tools. And so myself, Dustin, and a gentleman named Rusty Anderson, we collaborated together, and we created tools so that our field staff could get out in the field, be connected to the data, and correct any missing information in real time. We also began collecting maintenance activities through surveys that were tied to those spatial assets. Collecting data in this form allowed us to produce dashboards that were updated in real time to show the status of things like water loss, hydrant flushing, and valve exercising. it became quickly a tool that drove our discussions in our board meetings. It's a tool that I show the regulators when they come into town, they have questions. It's also a tool that we share with our external engineers. They utilize this data to plan our projects. We have a project ongoing right now, and when the contractor is putting pipe in the ground, the construction inspector, he's collecting data as it's going in the ground, and that data is becoming as-built that the guys can see that very moment and they can start using it. So it's phenomenal what ArcGIS Online with dashboards, the ability that it's given us. And so, again, we've shared this approach with the Kentucky Rural Water Association. They've helped develop additional tools, and we've utilized funding sources such as the Division of Water and the Appalachian Regional Commission. And now these tools are being deployed amongst small rural utilities across the state. So it's really exciting. The platform with dashboards has allowed us to share information with multiple entities real time. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dustin to really dive into a couple of dashboards specifically and really talk about how these dashboards have benefited the day-to-day operations.
Thanks, Daren. Hopefully you all can hear me. I apologize. I don't know what's going on with my mic this morning.
We can hear you just fine.
Okay, good deal, good deal. First, let me thank Gary Larrymore. He's our executive director at Kentucky Rural Water, and he's made it a priority to help systems with asset management by leveraging funds that we receive from ARC and Division of Water. We're very hopeful that these funding sources continue so that we can continue to help more and more systems. Currently, up to this point, we've helped about 20 systems in the ARC region and about 8 systems in the rest of the state with Division of Water funds. And that's just in about a year and a half's time. So thank you, and hopefully we can continue. This first dashboard we want to dive into here is Montgomery County Sanitation District's manhole inspection dashboard. And actually, Bell Engineering is also interacting with this dashboard. They are actually doing the inspections for Montgomery County manholes, and they're doing those inspections right into Montgomery County's RTS Online account. They're completing these inspections in the field with a tablet and a field map, and then as each one gets submitted, the dashboard gets updated in real time to illustrate what has been done. And the cool thing is that these inspections are forever tied to the manholes. So over the course of time, you'll be able to click on a manhole and see all the inspections that have ever been done for that particular asset. And so again, these dashboards are very interactive. The map is interactive. You can zoom in, zoom out. I can click over here on a manhole, and you can see they actually were out yesterday doing some inspections. So I can click on a manhole and it can filter the map here, and then the inspection report pops up over here. And they even have the ability to take pictures, so we could pull up a picture of that manhole as well. The second dashboard I want to show you is, this is for Daren. This is the Lebanon's cutoff dashboard. And what's great about this dashboard is that office staff and field staff work together using this dashboard and a mobile map to be more efficient on cutoff day. This workflow has effectively removed all paperwork orders and radio traffic, and the staff no longer have to worry about returning to the office to pick up work orders to see who they need to turn off or turn back on after payments. You can see again, this map, this dashboard is used in the office, and then the field staff, have essentially a replica map of this on their tablets. And so the symbols will change, the colors will change, and all the staff knows what all that means. And so when they go around, they know exactly, when to cut off people, where to cut off people, and when to turn them back on after they've made a payment. There's also a lot of analytics here. This is done monthly. This is updated monthly. So for this month, they had 24 cutoffs. It tells them if they're up or down from last month. And then, how many cutoffs they've had over the course of time going back a couple years here. And then they can also look at how much has been owed, how much money was owed to the utility, how much hasn't been paid and delinquent. One more dashboard here. This one's a pretty cool dashboard. This one's for Hyde and Wesley, and they've been tracking leaks. And even though we just started working with Hyde and Wesley, they've had a lot of leak data where they had recorded the actual locations of those leaks over time. So we were able to import that information in, and so they could see it all here on a map. And it's really cool because they can go back in time. They can say, okay, show me how many leaks I had in the last 180 days, and then everything will just filter down to that 180 days, including the map. Of course, they can click on the leaks and get information about that leak, how it was repaired, when it started, when it finished, things like that. So I know these are just a few dashboards. The purpose of all this is to help make utilities more efficient, but it also is to help share that data with other entities who would benefit from accessing it. And because we're using a bottom-up approach where utilities own and maintain the data, it's kept up to date, and then it can be consumed by other entities like Rural Water, Division of Water, PSC, KIA, engineers, whoever is can use the data, could benefit from having that data. So like I said, we're scratching the surface here. Just showed you a few dashboards. There's several. I mean, we've got a bunch where utilities are deploying them out and using them daily, and it's really helping. We're getting really good feedback from utilities that are using them. So with that, I know we're short on time here, but we certainly appreciate you all taking a look here, and I'll turn it back over.
Thanks, Dustin. Thanks, Daren. Appreciate it. And really appreciate you guys taking the opportunity to share some of these tools. I think the opportunities are endless, not only by visualizing the data, but being able to use some of the data and the dashboards that you've employed. So thank you very much again. We do appreciate your time. All right, so now we'll move to our final presenter of this session. Josiah Frey is an environmental scientist with the Division of Water. He's in our Watershed Management branch, and he's going to give a presentation on the Agricultural Water Quality Handbook that the division has actively been working on for some time. So, Josiah, we'll turn it to you, sir.
All right, everybody can hear me, I'm assuming.
You are coming through, and we can see your presentation.
Fantastic. Okay, so this Ag Water Quality Planning tool is something that we've been working on for a while. We're pretty excited about it. Did my screen just go away?
No, we can still see it.
Okay, because I just see myself now. All right.
Now it just went away. Now we have it back.
Do you
well,
have
we can
my?
see it for now, so that's what matters.
Okay, so this is just to kind of give a quick background on what this is, and then I'll give you a demo for this Ag Water Quality Plan planning tool. Like Carey said, we've worked on this for a little while. It's been in development for probably about a year and a half, and it's the needs expressed for it have kind of gone back even further than that. So let's start with the why. Nutrient loss is a consideration and an issue. That's both local and it's regional in Kentucky, but also to downstream users and the watersheds that we drain to. We have harmful algal blooms. There can be drinking water taste and odor, and losing our productive farmland soils is an issue. Again, this is both local, but it's also regional. All of the water in Kentucky drains to the Gulf of Mexico watershed, which every year there's a hypoxic zone about the size of Connecticut and Rhode Island that doesn't have enough dissolved oxygen for fish to live. So this is important from a number of perspectives. Kentucky's farm landscape, let's go through that real quick. We've got about 75,000 farms, which is a little bit higher on average than our neighbors, with which covers about 51% of our land mass. We've got a number of streams, about 90,000 miles of streams. One thing that's unique to Kentucky compared to our neighbors is that we have the largest beef cattle herd east of the Mississippi River. Compared to some of the other commodities, that is a larger share of our land use. And one of the things that's changed, particularly over the past 20 years, is that we have more and more part-time farmers. And so we were getting this feedback through the Ag Water Quality Authority that, hey, farmers have less and less time to prepare some of these plans and to modify and edit them. So that's where this Kentucky Ag Water Quality Planning tool comes in place. The Kentucky Ag Water Quality Planning Act, or the Kentucky Ag Water Quality Act, was put in place in 1994. It requires all farms over 10 acres to develop a plan to protect water quality and implement agricultural best management practices, which is kind of a big way of just saying doing the right thing on the farm. But again, since 1994, the farms have changed a lot. NAFTA came and went, the internet blew up, and producers innovate more than ever. So we designed this tool for the DIY farm. And I put this little picture in here. It looks like a farmer took a tractor and maybe something happened with the engine, and now his horses are pulling the back wheels and running the POTW. So I just thought that was kind of great. But ingenuity is our greatest resource in addition to soil. So let's get into how this works. We've had numerous planning tools over the years. The latest one was kind of a PDF that we had some farmers say, look, I need this to be kind of a TurboTax sort of thing, something that's quick and expeditious that I can do in my PJs. So we took that to heart and we built an online tool that we think meets those needs, and we've had some good feedback. So we'll go through this and I'll give you a quick demo.
Water Quality Planning Tool is a dynamic e-form that allows producers to expeditiously update their plan with integrated technical and funding resources. They provide information to the user about required fields, fields that may or may not be required, and frequently asked questions. By hovering over the question mark icon, additional information is provided to the user. In this case, we've chosen a farm name that is easy to recall or remember. As we scroll down to the farm address, you'll note that street addresses are not always associated with a farm, especially those that don't have street frontage. To remedy this, we have integrated a map that allows users to zoom in and select their farm based on a visual representation on a map. Now, the basic background is the Esri topo background. Additional backgrounds can be selected depending on the user's preference, whether that be imagery, street map, or other types of topos. In this case, we'll stick with the baked-in Esri topo. And in our hypothetical scenario, we're going to be doing a plan for a basic livestock operation, and we're going to choose our farm address to be the Energy Environmental Cabinets building at 300 Sauer Boulevard. You'll note that the latitude and longitude is automatically generated by selecting a point on the map. Street addresses aren't automatically generated, and in some cases, the zip code may need to be manually input. Where applicable, a street address will typically be generated automatically by the map, but it is not required for this form. Additional address information can be input in the next couple boxes as shown below. You'll note at the bottom there is a button for click to save, click to finalize, and next. If you're doing this plan a little bit at a time, you can click to save and come back to it at any time. We recommend not selecting click to finalize until you're at the very end and you're sure that all the boxes that are required have been filled in. Otherwise, you'll get an error message and be sent back to those areas that have not been completed. You either select next, or up top, you can select the next tab. In this case, we have general info, which we've completed, followed by farmstead BMPs, and the plan summary at the end. select farmstead BMPs, which brings us to a new section. Again, there's a question mark to help us answer this question. In this case, our answer is yes. This is a farm and it is larger than 10 acres. Now, for simplicity's sake, this farm is simply a livestock operation with few additional practices being implemented throughout. If we have questions, particularly whether it's solid waste, we can look at this icon as well. And since any waste is simply what is occurring naturally, we'll select no. There's no household wastewater, so no. But we will select yes, as we have a groundwater well in this hypothetical scenario to water our livestock. When you select yes, a couple other options are generated in a drop-down menu. You can select from one of the following BMPs that you have either planned to implement this BMP, either have implemented the BMP, or you're just not interested. For each question you select yes, you need to select have implemented or plan to implement for at least one BMP. Not interested is primarily reserved for your uses if you come back and are not sure what you thought about it last time. In this case, we'll select farmstead number 4, but we want a little bit of additional information about it. If you select the link here, you'll be taken to a BMP user guide to help with additional considerations for that BMP. There is information from the Ag Water Quality statewide plan on recommendations, minimum requirements, and a description, along with some technical resources and some funding options and other important considerations, including water quality benefits. With one water droplet showing that there's some benefit to nutrient and sediment loss, and 4 water droplets indicating that there is a significant amount of benefit for nutrients and sediment losses. Having confirmed that this is indeed an applicable BMP for this operation, we will select have implemented here and proceed throughout the form. We'll say that no, fuel is not stored on site. And we are to this last section here under the farmstead BMPs where we select what other tabs will be applicable for our facility or our farm in the rest of our plan. In this case, this is simply a livestock operation, but in some cases you may have livestock and crops, or you may have livestock proximate to a creek, and you would select every applicable box. Having completed that, we will select next, and we're brought to the livestock BMP tab. You'll notice that there are a number of questions, and some questions, depending on how you answer them, will generate additional questions. So in this case, our livestock is not in a roofed or paved area. However, it is in an unroofed and unpaved area, so we select yes. Again, we were presented with a list of drop-down options, including rotational grazing stocking density, a stack pad, heavy use area, or dead animal disposal. If you have some additional questions about this, you can, again, select that link and it'll bring you to a user page for additional information. One point of note is that where funding assistance is available for that BMP, there are links to various state or federal cost share or cost sharing programs. If we have some questions about the state cost share, for example, we select on this button, it will take us to a landing page of conservation districts in Kentucky. In our hypothetical scenario, we will go down to Franklin County, where we can contact various representatives by phone, email, or by their website. If we select the website for the Franklin County Conservation District, and we select services, there is a local cost share page that provides additional information on applying for cost share. Having satisfied our inquiry, we will select yes, we have implemented rotational grazing, and at some point we would like to implement stocking density. We will select no, for some of these remaining questions that are not applicable. And again, you'll note that we said that we have a groundwater well that waters our livestock. We selected yes. And what we selected on the farmstead BMP page carries through to the livestock BMP page. Selecting now from these other options proceeds us to the final page of this tool. On the plan summary page, you have a couple different BMPs that you have selected displayed up top, along with a message of what the plan provides to the user and a signature page. You'll note that the signature is a typed signature. After typing our signature, we have the option to either save and come back if we want to add some more information before we finalize, or we can finalize it now. By finalizing it, we will return to the eForms page where we will be presented with a PDF copy of our plan that we can either print or save locally for our use. In this case, we'll go ahead and click to finalize. If there are any missing parts of our eForm, we will get an error message. In this case, that was not the case, so we did not have any errors, and we were presented with that eForms landing page and a file generating message. Give it a minute to generate the file, and when it's done, you can select that file, open it, and either print it or save it locally.
Excuse me, Mr. Frey, we have 1 minute left remaining in this session.
Technical and funding resources.
All righty, well, that's a pretty quick demonstration of what the tool does. If you have any questions, there's a user guide available through the EEC's webpage, and there's some additional resources there as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Josiah. I want to thank you personally, but all the speakers during this session where we talked about technology and tools. As I mentioned in the lead up to all the sessions, we're developing some wonderful tools to be able to apply data and technology across the Commonwealth. So that being said, that concludes our session. So we're able to transition to the next session. Thank you very much.